All right, welcome back to the Atlanta Child Murders. It's 30 November. This is video number 19, I believe. Do I have that right? Hold on one second. I think I got that wrong. Um, yeah, so it's going to be 19. So we're going to continue, and I did all the Wikipedia pages. And so usually what you hear when you hear a video that's out there, these one-off videos that talk about true crime and crap like that, usually all they've done is just read the Wikipedia article, which is ridiculous. I mean, you'll hear some things, you'll get a general gist for the story, but you'll have no ideas on the details. So I'm going to continue. The next one I'm going to go across is this ATKID Weebly site. Now, I heard this lady on the Monster. She's pretty, you know, it's pretty obvious that she's in the anybody but Wayne category. And she uses her webpage in these statements that she's put on the webpage to show how it was anybody but Wayne. But if you read through all the statements that she's put on here that she's selectively taken and you line them all up, there's no way it could be anybody but Wayne because all the statements point toward Wayne being the guilty party. A witness saw Wayne in the white station wagon with the victim getting in the car. Statement after statement after statement. And we're going to go through all those. And we're going to go case by case, page by page, and read through all this. And it starts off, it's 11 o'clock, and there's a curfew in Atlanta. Do you know where your children are? Now, I did my first video where I explained where that came from. I thought that originated in Atlanta, but actually it originated over 10 years before in 1969 in New York City. They had a series of celebrities doing that. So they just copied it in Atlanta and they made it relevant to the Atlanta child murders. And I swear, I still get chills up my spine every time I hear that because as a kid, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, hearing that, that meant that didn't mean anything good. That meant the darkness. Are you locked up in your house? Are you with your children? Are you safe with them? Don't go out because there's a monster out there. Okay. All right. Hold on one second. An unknown monster. The fear was relevant. And that's why Wayne continued doing what he was doing. I think that the first murders were executions. He got rid of people that were going to blab about his pornography, child pornography um, thing that he was doing. Okay. Whether he was told to do it or whether he did it on his own to get rid of these people. And then as the mystery continued, he grew into being a serial killer. He even changes his methods along the way because you can tell he's watching the news. He's getting off on that. So you have this person who can't achieve anything, can't get his band together, can't get a record deal, can't control anything. But now he's got the city in fear. We're all in fear. There's fear across the country. And he grows into this role of the terror. Okay. All right. So it says the victims. The site is permanently focused on the victims in the Atlanta child murders. Much of the details are from books The List by Chet Detlinger. Chet Detlinger got his information from newspaper articles and police reports very selectively and very poorly. The thing you always have to remember is if you're relying on the list, you're relying on Wayne Williams to tell the story, okay? Because Chet Detlinger, okay, is in the pay of Ed Garland. When he's writing the list, he's in the pay of Ed Garland. Because before, when he's running around with this map, before Wayne Williams is arrested, it's one killer, and he's working off memorial and living off memorial and all this kinds of stuff. But as soon as Wayne Williams gets arrested and he's hired by Ed Garland, Chet Detlinger's all about it's anybody but Wayne. Okay? So just remember that when you're reading the list, that's what that is all about. It's a propaganda piece. It's not actual facts. They have selectively gone in to confuse people. And what you get here with me is I read all the information. Okay? If it's someone against Wayne, or if it's for Wayne, or it's for someone else, I read all of it and I explain all of it. Okay? But when you do that process, when you look at all the evidence and you look at all the news articles and watch all the videos, it becomes really obvious pretty quickly that it's mainly just Wayne killing everybody. And then there are other people like Nathaniel Cater, Jimmy Ray Payne, James Comento, Jimmy Jen that are on the periphery that are assisting in the killing. Mainly, they're assisting in the acquiring the children and maybe even the disposal of the children, but it's mainly Wayne that's killing them on the bed. No place else, just on the bed. All right, and it says, and the Atlanta youth murders of politics and race. Again, this, as I've said before, and a lot of people don't like, this case has almost nothing to do with race. Okay? It's not a racially motivated killing. In a sense, maybe it is. Maybe Wayne is killing them, like Slayton said, the prosecutor hypothesized. Maybe he's killing them because he hates poor blacks. He's a black and he hates poor blacks because it makes him look stupid. Okay? I think that's highly far fetched. I don't know. Um, I mean, you kill 29 people, you're not going to make a dent in the black population of 500,000. And it says the October issue of Spin Magazine. Well, in my last videos, I've gone over and just destroyed that magazine, how it's completely unreliable, that magazine article. They have no idea what they're talking about. I'm going to go over it again and go into greater detail. And the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the FBI Freedom of Information Act files. And if you have any information that I'm missing and any better photos of the victims, please contact me. Please pay special attention to Jones and Cater cases, which each have witnesses whose statements should have cleared witness in trial. Wayne Williams in trial. Well, no, they wouldn't, because those witnesses were completely unreliable. Okay, that's why the police didn't include their statements. That's why they weren't included in the trial. Well, first of all, Wayne wasn't charged with killing Jones or Cater, and the witnesses' statements are conflicting. Again, I'll just point out that 3 of the witnesses says that they hovered 10 feet off the ground and looked into an exhaust fan into the back room where supposedly Jamie Brooks was having sex with Jones and molesting him and then strangling him, which is almost impossible unless they're levitating off the ground. One of the same witnesses also said that he saw from the back window, but he also, another statement says that he saw from the front of the store through the front door, which is, again, impossible because you can't see past that barrier that separates that back room to the front room where all the washing machines are at. So that doesn't make any sense. And then the other 2 witnesses says they went and spent the night with Jamie Brooks with the dead body in the house with them. And then they watched as Jamie Brooks took it out the next morning, and dropped it by the dumpster. Again, another impossibility. I mean, think about it. If you just killed somebody and you put the body in your house, why would you put the body at the dumpster? Why not just put the body at the dumpster that night before? Why not put the body in your car and go to the woods and dump it there. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay. And then the two people who picked up on that story, who later got elected to DeKalb County, and one went to prison for murder and one had to resign for making racist comments, Lou Graham and Dorsey, they're the only ones that supported that, and they supported that Clifford Jones, Jimmy Brooks killed Clifford Jones because they had been pandering for years to the black community where they didn't want to believe it was Wayne Williams. All right. So we'll keep going here. It says this is because the prosecutor's case was built upon 2 points. The first was he was seen driving slowly on a Chattahoochee bridge days before a victim was found in the river. The other is the finding of trilobal green fibers on many victims, which the prosecution argued could only have been from the victims being in Williams' home. Well, actually, it was based on a hell of a lot more than that. But this person's quite biased in believing that Wayne Williams is completely innocent. Almost in every case, I'd say about half the victims, there are witness statements that identify Wayne with the victim getting into Wayne's car or holding hands with Wayne or, with the victim. I mean, we got William Barrett, whose brother and mother said they saw William with Wayne. Wayne even borrowed $5 from William's brother. Larry Pugh's mother saw Wayne with Larry Pugh. Larry Pugh's employer saw Wayne with Wayne Williams. I mean, the witness list goes on and on and on. Okay. And then the 5 combo fibers placed the victims in Wayne's environment in his car on every single victim, except for Angel Lanier. Their fibers are hairs that put the victim in Wayne's environment. Okay. And I'll get into more details on that. It says, check out Yesterday's Shame, the Atlanta Child Murders by Cisco Street Love. Again, another BS piece of crap. He puts together a lot of facts and makes sense out of all the raw data I have on my site and found elsewhere. You shouldn't cry over spilled milk. Spilled milk, former Mayor Andrew Young, of the unanswered questions as who killed Atlanta's children. Well, we don't know if he actually even made that quote. So there's no article. See, this is what happens when people that have a subpar education try to write a complicated thesis about something that's very complicated and complex. They list no news sightings, there's nothing, no bibliography, nothing. Okay. All right. So watch that. And we're going to watch these videos and kind of make comments here.
In Atlanta, another body was discovered today, the 23rd. Larry Rogers, a 21-year-old black man, last seen getting into a green car near his home March 30th. He had been listed.
Now, you remember, a witness saw Larry Rogers getting into that green station wagon of James Comento's, okay? And then Nellie Trammell, a person who knew Wayne Williams and Larry Rogers and went to church right across the street from Wayne Williams, pulled up beside Wayne Williams at an intersection. I think they were in the white station wagon by this time, and saw Wayne driving the car, and then slumped over in the passenger seat was Larry Rogers.
Is missing. Like 11 other recent victims in Atlanta, Rogers apparently was asphyxiated. Meanwhile, the entire investigation has taken a new direction, as Bob Serkin reports.
34-year-old Larry Marshall has been in custody in Hartford since March 30th. He was arrested on a Georgia warrant in connection with an armed robbery attempt. But more important, Atlanta police arrived in Hartford this afternoon to return Marshall to Atlanta after he waived extradition. Police want to question Marshall about his relationship with 3 of the murdered children. Larry Marshall, convicted in the past of robbery, forgery, and running a house of prostitution, lived in this house in the backyard of downtown Atlanta. For several weeks, undercover FBI agents and police have been watching the house and this one a few blocks away. Both reportedly have been hangouts for young teenage boys who police think came here to exchange sex with men for money. How many?
So let's just explain what he just said there. So if Larry Marshall got arrested in Connecticut on March 30th, and the police have been watching those houses for several weeks, about the end of February, and the murders increased in March and increased in April, how can Larry Marshall or Tom Terrell be involved in the killings of the children? Okay. Very, very simple thing to do. Also, they searched the house. None of the fibers match. There was no witnesses that saw them, you know, the victims getting into the cars. They went to the houses. This is how Wayne is finding them, okay? Is he all knows that they're going to those houses and doing things. And he's using that, okay, to get them to do things at his house. Well, you're already doing that at Tom Terrell's. Hey, look, you can make twice as much money if you let me videotape you or take pictures. So, and also the fact that the murders continued even while Larry Marshall and Tom Terrell were under surveillance in jail in Connecticut and in the Fulton County jail and then in prison after their trial. The murders continued. So I think that would probably exclude Larry Marshall and Tom Terrell. But the confusion, let's just sow confusion so nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
Many of the murdered children.
And the real question people should be asking them and all the neighbors is, did you ever see Wayne Williams with Larry Marshall? Did you ever see Wayne Williams with Tom Terrell? Did you ever see Wayne Williams come by and drop off kids or pick up kids at Larry Marshall's or Tom Terrell's? But we can't go back and ask those questions. We don't know those questions.
Have you seen around here?
About 10 of them. I told the men that
Jerry Thornton, Larry Marshall's former roommate, identified 10 of the murder victims from pictures shown him by a police investigator, children he's seen in the neighborhood. Among them, 13-year-old Timothy Hill, 11-year-old Patrick Baltazar, and 15-year-old Joseph Bell. Thornton says some of the victims visited him and Marshall during the past year. An acquaintance of Marshall and Thornton is 62-year-old Tom Terrell, who has been convicted 4 times of sex offenses. On March 12th, the day before he was reported missing, Timothy Hill spent the night at Terrell's house.
He was here on the 12th because he was supposed to come back on the 13th, and that was my birthday.
But he didn't come back.
He ain't been back here. If he did, I didn't see him, and I haven't seen him since.
Last week, Timothy Hill's body was recovered from a river. He was murder victim number 21. Tom Terrell is being questioned by police. Lee Brown, head of the Special Task Force, denies that sex is a significant factor in the child murders.
As far as factual evidence is concerned, there's nothing to suggest to us that homosexuality is any more involved in the killings, any more so than any other conceivable possibility.
So you hear how he answered that question, okay? That he's not excluding homosexuality. You remember I said that the predatory pedophilia culture in Atlanta, okay, he's not excluding it, but he's not including it, but he's not excluding it, okay? That there are other factors. There's multiple factors. This is the thing that people try, it's just a bunch of gay guys, pedophiles, right? It's just a bunch of pornographers. It's just a bunch of child haters. Okay. And really what it is a combination of all of these. Like I've said, Wayne Williams is a homosexual. He's a pedophile. He's also a pornographer. He also hates black children. Okay. He also hates the Atlanta community and is getting off on the fear he's creating. So there's multiple reasons for things and reasons for killing the children. Some are maybe threatening to tell. Some maybe were requested by his other pedophiles in his little Odyssey network that he's created in his little portfolio book. There's multiple reasons. This is why it's confusing. Okay? And you think about this in anything that we do in human life, okay? Do you buy a house just to sleep in and not cook in and not watch TV and not wash your clothes? Do you buy a house just to wash your clothes in, have a place to wash your clothes, and you sleep someplace else? Do you buy a car, okay, just to carry your groceries and not go to work? You ride the bus to go to work. You don't go to work in your car. We do things and we buy things and we get things for multiple reasons. Okay? This is something that has multiple reasons the why it's happening. And that's why it's hard to pin down.
But the FBI and other police agencies working on the cases have long considered sex the most viable motive in a number of the children's murders. As for the Special Police Task Force, it has a problem, says one source, who adds, some police officials are under pressure to not only solve the cases, but to also protect the reputations of some of the victims. Bob Serkin, ABC News, Atlanta.
And now for news from overseas, we go.
Well, I would hope they would be under pressure, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want the police to be under pressure to solve the case? That's what they're there for, right? That's what we pay them for. All right. So another thing you got to understand is they don't want to give the killer a reason to change his methods by blaming it on the homosexual community or the music community, the black community, whatever. They're being very vague. So it doesn't give the killer a reason to change what he's doing. Okay? All right, so let's look at this one.
Funeral services were held today for 15-year-old Joseph Bell, the 24th victim in Atlanta's child slayings. And as Bruce Hall reports, a woman reportedly is now telling authorities about a man she links to some of the crimes.
A variety of sources say that a Miami woman now claims that she was told about several of the Atlanta killings before they occurred.
All right, so you remember Joseph Bell? Okay, he lived over right over close, just west of Morris Brown, all the colleges right there. And you remember the witness? I even read an FBI statement in my other videos, and I'm going to go over that again, where the witness tells the FBI that he saw Joseph Bell at a basketball court playing with his basketball, and then this white station wagon pulls up. It's muddy all the way up to the doors. It has a funny-looking extra antenna, which would be Wayne Williams' police scanner. And then Joseph Bell grabs his basketball as soon as he sees the white station wagon and runs over and gets in the white station wagon like he's expecting the guy. He knows the guy. And this witness is so close. He describes Wayne Williams. He's so close that he can even see what type of shirt that Wayne Williams is wearing. Again, it's a white silk-looking shirt. It's an acetate shirt, okay? It looks like a silk shirt, he says. It's flayed at the top. It's opened up, and it's black and white. It's white with all these little black splotches. Exactly the same shirt that I saw Wayne Williams wearing when he came into the Dipper Dan's there, okay? So what we're seeing is confirmation of that, okay? And then there's another witness that places Yusuf Bell at the studio being auditioned by Wayne, because this guy went there to be auditioned by Wayne. And he said, no, Joseph isn't a very good singer, but he's a good dancer. Okay, and so I'm going to sign him on a contract immediately. So if Wayne's looking to build his singing group, why is he even bothering with Yosef Bell, who can't sing? Doesn't make any fucking sense, does it? And Yosef Bell is found in the South River, almost into Rockdale County, and it's right around that little bend. There's a new bike bridge that goes across the river, and these people are biking, and they test out that trail in the bridge, and that's when they see the body. All right, so we'll keep going here. And this psychic, I believe this is the same woman who talks about her boyfriend is a Satanist and is like predicting all this stuff. Now, we don't know that he said this before. All we know is what she's saying, okay? It could be he just made some generalized statement and she's implying that. A lot of people do that. Oh, I'm going to get some black kids one next week and one the week after that. And then they insert that into their memory and they come out believing that that's what happened. Again, witness statements are notoriously horrible. Their only good is to confirm the physical evidence.
The woman, who has not been publicly identified, was the source Roy Innes referred to yesterday when he announced that he had discovered the link that would break the Atlanta murders case. She said the killer is a former boyfriend who hates children. She said she did not believe his stories about the killings until he told her that 21-year-old Eddie Duncan and 21-year-old Larry Rogers would be killed next. A few days later, Duncan and Rogers were killed. She also claims that the killer, who is black and used to live in Miami, says that he delivered some of the children to whites.
Now let's think about that also. If I tell you, just out of the blue, that I'm going to kill John Smith, or no, because John Smith's kind of a common name, I'm going to kill Joseph McGillicuddy, and I'm going to kill Ian Wright, Wright, in the next 2 weeks. Are you going to remember those names? Oh, you're just going to blow it off, right? Oh, you're full of shit. And if I did tell you that, and the first person is murdered, why wouldn't you go tell the police before the second person is murdered? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Again, there are a lot of people that want to insert themselves into the headlines, to say they're involved. Remember that guy that was arrested in Thailand? And I think he was from the Philippines or he was from Germany or someplace. And he said that he had killed John Benet Ramsey, which they found out he wasn't even in the country, in the United States, in Denver. At that time, he was in like Germany, I believe. He was obsessed with the girl, and so he inserts himself into the narrative, okay? But they had to check him out. So let's see, did they arrest this guy? Did they question him? Let's find out.
To be killed. Authorities will not say whether they believe the woman, but they are pursuing the story vigorously. However, the mother of one of the slain black children...
Again, is there any mention in the news story here that they questioned the guy? I don't know. I would have arrested her because that's a false report.
Says that she has been shown the photograph of the man the Miami woman claims is the murderer. Annie Hill says she recognized the man.
He been in this neighborhood walking. And because of this year one thing, cause I done see them more in one time. Well, when I see them, he'd be walking up, down the sidewalk, and he attended, the boys club, and he was at the A&P store. And
police sources say the theory that many of the youngsters were...
And again, think about that. So, if the guy that she's saying is the murderer is working at an A&P store, and he's walking around the neighborhood, you need a fucking car to put a body in, folks. Okay? Is he just carrying them around with him and then walking down the street with the body over his shoulder doing the fireman's carry? Come on, folks. Let's give us a break. So it's obviously not him. And this right here looks like Cynthia Montgomery's and Nathaniel Keeter's housing project. Anyway, let's see.
Were recruited by homosexuals for sexual favors is the strongest motive investigators now have for the killings.
There you go.
Other officers say they're investigating a report that Michael McIntosh, the 23-year-old victim found in the river earlier this week, may have been involved in recruiting children for homosexuals. The head of the Atlanta office of the FBI.
And again, you remember Mickey McIntosh, you remember what happened to him? He went to his boss and said he was going to be off the next couple of days. And then his boss was like, oh, really? Well, why? And then he didn't give an answer. And then he walked out, and his boss followed him and saw him getting into a white station wagon with a man who fit the description of Wayne Williams. And then right after that, he disappeared and was killed. And again, this is exactly the scenario I'm talking about. The 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, I believe, are recruiting the younger children. Hey, you can make some money. Hey, you can get in the music business. All these kinds of things, okay? You remember when we were kids and kid rumors? Remember kid rumors? People would pass shit around and, you know, I remember there was some kind of rumor going around. If I remember it correctly, there was a rumor that one of the teachers at our school was involved in the Atlanta child murders. Okay. And it got so bad because kids believe shit. Okay. That the principal held a rally. Or no, he went on the intercom first and then he held a rally. And basically said, stop listening to rumors. This is all BS. The police have checked this out. It's not real. This guy is not involved in the Atlanta child murders. And this teacher didn't quit, but went away for a couple of months until it was all cleared up, because a lot of the parents, even though the police cleared him, a lot of the parents didn't want him around the children. Okay. I think eventually he had to go find a job at another school because it persisted until Wayne Williams was caught. All this persisted. This is like 1980. Okay. So rumors persist, even though they may not be based on facts. Okay. And then you got here, what? Public Safety Commissioner Brown. And then you've got the head of the FBI in the Atlanta office right there. Glover, I believe.
FBI, John Glover, and Public Safety Commissioner Lee Brown met this afternoon for 2.5 hours with Roy Innes. Afterward, Brown would only say they're continuing to follow the leads. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
At Fort Benning, Georgia, authorities are checking.
All right. We'll keep going here.
Our special segment tonight is a fresh look at the series of murders in Atlanta, a report prepared by James Polk, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter. In it, Polk describes how little is known about one of the longest series of unsolved murders in the country's history.
Aaron Jackson Jr. was among the youngest, only 9 years old.
So, Aaron Jackson, I mean, almost in every single one of these stories, you've got somebody placing Wayne Williams there, okay? So you've got a witness that said when he was driving up, I believe this is Forest Park Road, and he's crossing the bridge. There's a green station wagon parked down here, and looking over the railing is a black male looking down into the river with bushy hair and glasses. He couldn't see the face very well. And, you know, we've all seen people as we drive down the road doing things, leaning over, picking up stuff. I've never really seen anything suspicious, but, you know, we see people as they're driving down the road and we just kind of glance over and we see them. Okay. So this guy goes up there and then he later on that day, he's coming, that's in the morning. And then later on the day, he's coming back down the road. And then he sees all these police, fire department, and ambulance services, and they're pulling the body out of the river. Okay, and that's Aaron Jackson, I believe is what they said. And he tells them, hey, I was driving this morning, and I saw this guy, and he was at a green station wagon parked at the end of the bridge, and he was leaning over the railing, looking down exactly where you were pulling up that body. And they gave a description, but of course he didn't have a facial description. That was Wayne Williams. That was James Comento's fucking car he was driving. Now you remember, this happened because there was an article at the end of October that came out where, the news media, they're asking their informants in the police department, how come some of the kids that are getting killed in Atlanta are being put on the list and others are being excluded? And this person said, hey, it's real simple. The ones that have one of the 5 combos of fibers, the dog hair, the violet acetate blanket fiber, the green carpet fiber with the special crimp, the yellow acetate or nylon blanket fibers, or the car fibers, the fibers coming off the rug in various different cars that Wayne had. That's how they're getting on the list. If they have any of those fibers right there, that puts them on the list, okay? And it's mainly the violet acetate fibers from the blanket, but they don't mention that, okay? Don't mention that, okay? So he mentions that. That's how they're getting on the list. That is the litmus test. If they don't have those, they're not on the list, or they don't know one of the victims, or not associated with one of the victims, they're not on the list. It's they don't know who Wayne Williams is, okay? So in October, they have no idea of 1980. They have no idea who Wayne Williams is, okay? So the only differentiation that the police and the task force have is the fibers, specifically the violet acetate fibers. That's what's getting them on the list, people, okay? When Chet Detlinger puts out his book about the list, he's talking about all children killed in Atlanta, okay? That's his list. That's not the list that the task force was using, okay? And so that comes out in October that the police are finding fibers on the bodies. Wayne reads this, and he goes to the library, and he reads up on Lucard's exchange principle, which basically says that whenever you walk into an environment or leave an environment, when you walk into the environment, you leave something there. And when you leave an environment, you take something with you. Okay, so you may walk into someone's house and leave some gravel that was on the bottom of your shoe on the carpet. And you may walk out of someone's house and pick up some carpet fibers. Now, they tried to use Lecard's exchange principle against the prosecution on this, saying, well, hey, how come there's no fibers from the victims inside of Wayne's house? Very, very simple. If someone is bringing something in, they're only going to have, that's identifiable, okay? They're going to have stuff from their clothing, which is not going to shed as much in that environment, okay? And you've got 29 different victims. They're all going to have different clothing that they're wearing, okay? So that's going to be very, very rare. You're hardly going to be able to match that up at all, okay? Also, Wayne is wiping down, cleaning, vacuuming, sweeping his environment. So, and it's also one victim a month. So it's very, very easy to cleanse an environment of anybody bringing anything in. Now, when someone comes in, they're going to be picking up the same items every time. They sit in the car, passenger seat. They're picking up the hair from Sheba, the German Shepherd. They're sitting on the bed, mostly unclothed. They're picking up the violet acetate fibers coming off of Wayne's blanket. They're being killed and rolled onto the floor. They're picking up the green carpet fibers when they hit the floor. They're being wrapped up in that yellow white blanket they're getting the fibers there. So it's more likely for them to pick up fibers from Wayne Williams' environment than to leave anything that could be found and identified later on. Okay? So you got to understand they're finding thousands of fibers, okay, on all the victims' bodies and in Wayne's environment. The only common factors, okay, are that 5 fiber hair combo I'm talking about there, okay? Because they're going to bring in, you know, if you think about it, some kid, he went and sat on a bus and he picked up a fiber from a bus, and he picked up fibers from his house, and he picked up leaves, fibers from leaves, broken leaves on his shoe, and gravel from his front yard. But that's going to be a one-off instance. And the gravel from his front yard is going to be different than the gravel from another victim's front yard. Okay. And then at the one instance, they may have dropped a pebble or a little bit of stone in Wayne Williams' house. It might get vacuumed up or swept out. Okay. Or not even identifiable back to its source. So again, they lamely tried this excuse that, hey, well, if the victims are picking up fibers in Wayne Williams' environment, how come they're not leaving fibers in his environment? Well, he's also wiping down the cars. He's wiping down the desk. He's washing the blankets. Okay, so there's no hairs. He's vacuuming. He's sweeping. He's cleaning up from his work. Okay, we all do this. You go to Crystal's or you go to McDonald's at the end of the night. What do? They wipe down everything. They clean all the equipment. They sweep and mop the floors. Pretty fucking simple, folks. So again, in another news story, they're identifying another victim on May 11th. Found that someone saw Wayne looking over that body. So what happened is Wayne, he read about Lecard's exchange principle and he realized, shit, this is the thing that will bust me. Now, he's been leaving victims out in the woods because, like I said, why not put some weights on the victims and drop them in the river? Why not dig a hole and bury it and cover it up with leaves way out in the woods and no one will ever find the body? He wants the bodies to be found. He just doesn't want it identifying back to him. Okay? So that's why he changes his method. And the first victim is Aaron Jackson in the South River. But the South River is a perennial river. You see these rocks right here? When it rains really hard, the river comes up to here and pushes things down. When it stops raining, all that water's gone down, the water recedes down to where it's at now. So he went in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, dumped the body over the bridge. Then he came back the next morning because he heard a thunk to make sure that the body had washed down in the river. And then he realized that it didn't. And you can't go down there at 7 o'clock in the morning, start moving bodies around, or you're going to get caught. Okay? So this is why the next victim, Patrick Rogers, okay, he throws in the Chattahoochee. Much bigger river, much better chance of, him washing down that way and washing off the fibers. And it works. He's stripping the bodies. Okay. They're already naked anyway on the bed. And I believe in this one, he had either a belt or he didn't have socks. I believe that's how it went. And again, that tells you he's putting the clothes back on them because of the shame factor. Okay. He knows what he's doing is wrong. That's why, some victims are found with stuff over their head. Anyway. All right, so we'll keep going.
Luby Jeter was 14, Timothy Hill 13, Patrick Baltazar 11. For almost 2 years, the bodies of...
You see that tree right there? That's the tree. There's the parking spot right there where the lady saw James Comento sitting in his green station wagon right there. I mean, it's green station wagon with Luby Getter. It's green station wagon with Patrick Baltazar. It's green station wagon with Aaron Jackson. It's green station wagon with Larry Rogers. I mean, how many fucking times do you have to see this green fucking station wagon before you realize it's the same fucking killer? But see, Wayne is smart. He's changing it up. Sometimes they see him get in, a victim get into a blue station wagon. Sometimes they see him get into his white station wagon. Sometimes they see him get into the victim get into the green station wagon. So this, and then, he's dropping him in Fulton County, dropping him in DeKalb County. They're washing up in Cobb County. They're washing up in Douglas County. He's sowing confusion, okay? And it works. If they didn't catch, if Wayne had gone and dumped Nathaniel Cater's body that Friday night, the 22nd, he would have got off scot-free. They probably would have found him another way, but it would have been many, 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 many more victims. All right.
Kept coming out of Atlanta's rivers and woods, and week after week, police speak of sorrow and sympathy, but not a solution.
It's just a tragic, horrible nightmare that we're going through.
We're not in a position today to make an arrest.
There are cases in history that have gone on much longer than this has.
Yeah, I mean, the Green River Killer, he killed what, for 20 years? 80 women that we know of? And they didn't catch him until the DNA technology. They had him as a suspect. They even questioned him with the police, but they didn't have enough evidence to arrest him, okay? Back in the 80s. And he continued for another 20 years. I think it was about 25 years he killed the women until the DNA technology got where they could link it to him, okay? That's how they busted him. All right.
Task Force headquarters, there are 27 faces on the wall, 26 murdered, 1 missing. The killer? There is a handful of sketches, no one the same, no one certain to be the person police want.
Yeah, see? None of those look like Wayne Williams.
Almost a year after the task force was set up, police can't answer who or why. They don't know how or where or even how many of the black victims may have been killed by the same person. One investigator says even if the killer walked in the door and confessed, there is not enough evidence now to convict him. A half dozen of the cases may be isolated, unrelated homicides, the victims found near home, killed perhaps by family or friends. But somewhere in the city of Atlanta, there is a person who has killed 15 or 20 boys and young men. The district attorney keeps a chart on the wall with names of the dead and room for more.
With my theory, the person is not abducted, not kidnapped, not snatched off the street at that particular time, but is willingly going with somebody for something, at least at the instance they get in the car. They're going to make some money, or they're going to meet somebody. They're going starting off willingly.
Like many victims.
Exactly what I've been saying. Wayne has been grooming them, okay? They all know him. They've been to his house. They met him at the studio, okay? Just like Joseph Bell, they willingly get into the car. Again, if this was a bunch of white guys, Klan guys, running around kidnapping kids off the street, somebody somewhere would have heard or seen a bunch of white guys and a little black kid screaming and yelling, okay? Somebody would have seen it, okay? But nobody did. The reason why is because it's a black guy. It's Wayne. Everybody knows Wayne. Oh, that's just Wayne and Joseph. He's that stupid music promoter that never can put together an album. And, Joseph's getting in the car to go off with him to go sing, but he can't sing, or dance, but he can't dance, or whatever the hell he's going to do. So when you hear these statements, this supports and drives the nail into Wayne being the killer even more. Okay? Now that we look back and we know what we know, it's pretty damn obvious what's going on. All right, keep going.
Victims, JoJo Bell, 15, was a child of the streets, always in need of money. He worked for his supper once in a while at the seafood carryout and always asked the owner to give him a ride home.
He wouldn't walk the street at night because of the killing. You know, they used to joke about it. You know, he said, I ain't gonna let the kids snatch me. But someone did. Yeah, somebody did.
And again, Wayne was constantly going to that restaurant. He even put that restaurant's phone number on one of his flyers that he's passing out. So the people can contact and leave him messages there. And then we're going to read here, there's a story of JoJo Bell supposedly calling and speaking to an employee there who recognized his voice and says, I'm almost dead. Okay. So JoJo Bell was missing for a couple of weeks. He was still alive. When they found the body, it was barely dead, maybe 24, 48 hours. Okay. So JoJo Bell was being held alive someplace. He escaped somehow, got to a phone, made a phone call. I would have called the police. Okay. It's Wayne. That's what I mean, again, if you're going to call somebody and you're going to say, hey, I'm almost dead. When you say, it was Wayne, Wayne picked me up, tell the police to go arrest Wayne Williams. He may not know the address, but he definitely would know Wayne Williams, right?
Bell had been a basketball buddy of Timothy Hill. Hill spent his last known night at the seedy shack on Gray Street, the home of a 63-year-old homosexual called Uncle Tom. None of the victims has been found sexually abused, but the obvious question intrigues investigators. Mickey McIntosh, one of the adults killed, hung around the same carryout where JoJo Bell worked.
Yeah, see? Mickey McIntosh lived on the back side of that restaurant. Okay? They're all connected to Wayne.
I have seen gays come down and seen Mickey in the car with, gays. They would be dressed all up and stuff. They'll come by here and sometimes look for Mickey.
Atlanta's safety commissioner will say only...
You see, every witness is confirming what it is. It's a homosexual pedophile pornography ring. Okay? They're using that ring, not all homosexuals, not all pedophiles, not all, like I said before, not all homosexuals are pedophiles, and not all pedophiles are serial killers or killers of children. Just because, as bad as it is, if someone's molesting a child, it doesn't mean that they're going to kill them. And it doesn't mean that they're a serial killer of children or anybody. Okay? There are plenty of pedophiles that never killed anyone, but they did molest children. And there are plenty of homosexuals, okay, that never molested children. Okay? So you've got a group of homosexual adults with Wayne and James Comento and Nathaniel Cater. They're recruiting these children, and then he's grooming them, buying them shoes, buying them ice cream, buying them clothing, and then he's gaining their trust. Hey, you can make some extra money. You're already doing that over at Tom Terrell's. Hey, might as well make. You're only making $10. You can make $20 here on film. This is what I believe is going on. I'm just speculating, but every single, if you follow the evidence and you follow the witness statements, this is what it leads to. Okay, it leads straight to Wayne, and it leads to this homosexual pedophile pornography ring right in there. Right there.
What he doesn't know.
Where we are in the investigation right now is we do not know the person or persons that are responsible, therefore we do not have the motive.
The killer seems to taunt police and read press clippings. After a well-publicized but futile search along a road in an outlying county, the next child strangled with a rope was dumped there.
And there you go. That's Larry Pugh. That's Larry Pugh right there, folks. And again, you remember the redneck had a beef with the Rockdale County Sheriff, called in and said, I'm the one that's killing people, and you're going to find a dead body to prove it. There's a dead body over off of Sigmund Road. Okay? And they were going to go out there and search, but John Douglas, the profiler, said, look, we want him to call back. So what you want to do is if he tells you to go down this road, you go down another road. If he says go right, you go left. You do everything the opposite of what he says. It's going to frustrate him. He's going to call back, and then we're going to trace the call. We're going to get him. That's exactly what happened. as reported, and that's exactly what he did. He called back. They traced him. They arrested him. They questioned him, did a lie detector test, and searched his house and found out he was just a drunk, angry old cracker that didn't kill anybody. Okay. But what he did do, okay, because first thing John Douglas says, this is not the killer. The killer is a black man. It's not a white man, it's a black man. But what he knew is that this killer had his territory, okay? And if we expose this white cracker, it's going to piss off the killer, and he's going to make a mistake, because this is the killer's 15 minutes of glory. It's his terror. He's the one causing it, no one else. And he's not going to let anybody else take that glory from him. So John Douglas knew that this would probably happen. And so we have Larry Pugh seen with Wayne Williams at his Church's Fried Chicken, where he's working over them Bankhead Highway trying to sell a water pistol. The lady sees Larry Pugh trying to sell the water pistol, and then she sees the white station wagon with Wayne Williams. Larry Pugh's mother had seen Wayne Williams with Larry Pugh. And then at the funeral, Larry Pugh's mother sees Wayne Williams taking pictures. At the road out here, you see this yellow police tape right here? Further up the road, there was a Rockdale County Sheriff deputy. He said that after Wayne Williams was arrested, he recognized him as the guy who showed up, this independent cameraman, offering to take pictures of the crime scene, and even left his card, but they had disposed of the card like that. And he had some very expensive camera equipment. He described Wayne Williams, okay, to a T. And so it's just witness after witness after witness, okay, describing Wayne Williams. All right, we're going to keep going, and I think we'll be finished here. We got 3 minutes.
When a suburban police official criticized Atlanta's investigation, a child choked to death was left just inside that official's county line. After a press report that police had found fibers on some of the bodies, 6 of the last 7 victims have been dropped into rivers, all stripped to their undershorts or less, possibly to wash away evidence. NBC News has learned in some cases the synthetic fibers were found on victims' clothing hanging in closets at home, indicating those children may have visited their killer at times before their death.
It's exactly what I said. I'm going to go over this FBI chart that Larry Peterson makes for them, and it shows that when the victim was found, they searched the home. They went through the dirty clothes, and they found the same fibers, specifically the violet acetate fibers on many of the victims' clothing, which means they had sat on the bed and picked up the fibers on their clothing before they were killed, okay? Then they went home, they changed clothes, and then either a day, a week, or a month later, okay, they are found. Now, let's continue with this. I think we're almost out of time. Yeah, we got about a minute.
But authorities have had this secret evidence for weeks, and it still has not led to the killer. Police are undermanned, and there is grumbling in the ranks. One patrolman is quoted, "They don't tell us anything. It seems like they don't trust us."
Well, no shit. I wouldn't trust them either, because Wayne is probably getting some of his information from confident policemen that he knows. Okay, so that's why Maynard Jackson brings in the FBI. Okay. Anyway, so what I want to say about this lady's website is that she seems to think that all these videos and that all the evidence that she lists in here exonerates Wayne Williams. You hear her talk about that on the Atlanta child murders, and just what I've just showed you in probably 20 fucking different instances, just in the videos alone, it all points to Wayne Williams being the killer. And again, I don't think he's the only one involved. I don't know why he's killing them. I speculate that he's either shutting them up because he's afraid they're going to tell, or he's doing some kind of snuff films, or he's just angry and killing these kids. I think it leans more to he's afraid that they're going to tell about what's going on, his little porn operation he's got going on. But all that website does is prove exactly what I've been saying all along. All right, we'll do another